guys, this is your first lesson and this is a unit based on line. You're going to be starting every day with a do now, and that is going to be done in your visual journal. So remember, you should have a notebook. It can be a regular line notebook, it can be a sketchbook, and that is where you're going to be taking notes and creating your planning for any artworks that we're going to be doing, as well as doing any activities that I ask you to do in preparation for artworks. So you are going to be starting on your do now today on day 1, and you will be adding all of your do nows from this week onto this page. Every week you'll get a new image and you'll create a new do now page in your visual journal. So on day 1 today, you are going to create a rough sketch of the artwork that you see here. It can be on a quarter of the page, the whole page, a half a page, but you are going to want to go ahead on the first blank page that you have in your visual journal and go ahead and create a rough sketch of the image that you see here. Go ahead and pause our lesson as you do your sketch, and then you can go ahead and resume the lesson as soon as you finish sketching. Again, this is a unit on lines, and our learning goal for this unit is I can use contour lines to accurately create a drawing inspired by the artist Keith Haring. These are your vocabulary words for this unit. On the next blank page in your visual journal, you should be writing down these words. I would write them in a long list with one word after the other instead of in 2 separate lists, because you will be taking notes on the definitions of these words as you work through the lesson. You can pause the video again to write down the words and then come back and push play when you're ready to continue. Our first definition is line. A line is a dot that continues. That's what you can write in your visual journal next to the word line. A line is a dot that continues. You can also add, when a line intersects itself, it becomes a shape. If you need more time for writing the definition, please pause the lesson and take the time to write it. We will be going ahead and watching a video about line together, and then we will move on to practicing some line work.
Each of these pictures is a self-portrait by a well-known artist. Although they are portraying very similar things, one main idea that differentiates them is how the artists have used line in their work. Line is one of the 7 elements of art, along with shape, color, texture, form, value, and space. These 7 elements are the building blocks of all art and are a great place to start when analyzing or interpreting works of art. Line is the path created when an object moves from one point to another. In the visual arts, lines are made when you draw or paint marks on a paper or canvas, or when materials such as wood, glass, and metal are bent or shaped. Lines are also made by photographers and filmmakers when they choose how to angle their cameras and how to compose their shots. Lines can be horizontal, vertical, or diagonal, straight, curved, or free form. They can be thick or thin, light or dark. Sometimes one line can be all of those things. Lines can be described in many ways: dashed, dotted, rough, smooth, zigzag, implied. What qualities do you see in these lines? How would you describe them? Every artist has a unique way of making lines. It's one way of expressing their individual style. This is a self-portrait by Jean-Michel Basquiat. His lines might be described as bold, jagged, almost messy at times. What do these lines make you think of? Why might he have chosen to represent himself in this way? Compare that to the faint, seemingly unfinished quality of this self-portrait by David Hockney. What do his lines suggest to you? Do they make you think or feel differently than the Basquiat self-portrait? If you were drawing a self-portrait, what kinds of lines would you choose to represent yourself? What kinds of lines would communicate the messages you want viewers to think about? The next time you are looking at a sculpture, painting, or drawing, try to notice what kinds of lines are used and interpret what they mean to you.
The next thing we're going to be discussing is what is a contour line. So you'll be writing the definition in your notebook. A contour line is an outline with very little detail. An outline with very little detail. I'm going to show you a demonstration of how to create a contour line drawing, and then you're actually going to take the time to practice creating a contour line drawing at home in your visual journal. So take a moment and watch this demonstration to see how you should create a contour line drawing.
All right, guys, today I'm going to talk to you about how to draw a contour line drawing. A contour line drawing is a line drawing that goes around the outer edges of the object that you're trying to draw. And if you really pay close attention to those lines that you're trying to draw, you will end up with a drawing that looks very realistic. This one was made by a fourth grader of an unwrapped Tootsie Roll and a little package of candy. And I'm going to talk to you today about how we went about doing it. So the first thing we did was we set up what's called a still life. A still life is a group of objects that sit really still. So for this still life, we had 2 pieces of candy. We first had to figure out what was going to make an interesting composition or arrangement for a still life, something that would be interesting to draw and to look at when the drawing was finished. So setting up a still life like this isn't very interesting, but even just turning the objects a little bit or opening the box of candy and leaning it or having some of the candy spill out instantly makes a more dynamic or interesting composition. So make sure you take a couple of minutes to arrange your still life. And once you've got that arranged, then you're ready to draw. Make sure whatever you're drawing, like for me, my candy still life, is very close to the surface that I'm drawing on. So this will be that paper that I'm going to draw on. I'm going to start with this candy juice first. So what I like to do when I'm drawing something with a contour line, let me get my still life back in order, is I like to synchronize my hand that doesn't know how to draw with my hand that does. And by synchronize, I mean both hands are always doing the same thing. And what I will do is I'm going to use my finger to outline my piece of candy. And notice that as I'm doing that, my finger of my right hand, my drawing hand, is mimicking or doing the exact same thing. Once you feel like you understand how to do that, you can go ahead and put your pencil to paper to start. So I'm going to start here. You might want to draw.
Sorry guys, I'm having an issue with the video real quick. Let me see if I can get it back up and running for you.
You might want to draw lightly. That way, it's not so much strain on your finger, and if you need to fix anything, then you can always go back and erase. So I'm trying to make my finger that's going around the edges of the candy be synchronized or matched up with the finger that's tracing. And I'm going at a slow speed so I can do my very best. It helps if you're really quiet when you do this so that your creative side of your brain can do a lot of concentrating. Wow, so that looks pretty accurate. And I use the element of art of line. Now I can go back and use texture to show that there's some wrinkles in some of the candy. I could also go back and use more line to show form. If I even curve that line a little bit, suddenly it looks like my candy is rounded. To give it even more form, I see that there's a shadow here, so I could do a little bit of shading, but my favorite thing to do is add a little bit of a shadow underneath. Suddenly my object looks like it's actually sitting on a surface or a table. Doing something that has an organic shape like this, a wrinkled shape, a shape more like something we might find in nature, is a lot easier to do a contour line drawing than when you're doing something that's geometric. So I could use the same method of tracing, or I could draw the shapes that I see. And my candy, I'm going to actually tilt my candy box up a little bit to make it look more 3D. So I know that this is a rectangle.
All right, guys, I'm going to stop there because I think you have the basic idea. So what you're wanting to create is really outlines of your objects. And what you're going to be doing to do that is you're going to be practicing. Let me see if I can move this over. Sorry, I'm having some trouble with the video here. You're going to be practicing how to draw contour line images. So what I want you to do on a blank page in your journal is I want you to separate your paper into 6 sections. I want you to find 6 objects to draw. And I want you to challenge yourself. Don't draw a picture of something that's so simple. And if you do, at least choose some other difficult things as well so that you're really giving yourself a chance to try drawing using the contour line drawing method. You're going to draw 1 object per section. So you should go ahead and draw a line down the middle of your paper and then 2 lines across the paper so that it's creating 6 separate sections and you have 6 little squares to draw your images in. You can go ahead and pause the video and you're going to go ahead and find 6 objects, draw 6 squares on your visual journal page, and try contour line drawing those objects. When you're done, hit play to continue our lesson. Your next word that you're going to be writing the definition for is what is rhythm? Writing your definition on the page where you have your list of words. Rhythm in art is when something is repeated in an artwork to give a feeling of movement. This could be lines or shapes. If you need to pause the video again to write your definition, you can do that, and then hit play when you're ready to go again. Now, since rhythm is showing movement in art, what I want you to do is I want you to give your objects movement. So the 6 images that you drew the contour line artworks of, I want you to go ahead and add lines of movement around those 6 images. And here's some examples of lines of movement. It could be zigzag lines, curving lines, repeating lines. So each of your 6 images, I want you to add lines of movements around them, or rhythm. You can pause the video and resume when you're ready to continue the lesson. Here's another one of our words that are on your vocabulary list that you should be writing down, and that is overlapping. Overlapping is when one object appears to be in front of another object. Here's our words again. Hopefully you wrote down all the definitions. If not, I'll go over them real quick again. A line is a dot that continues. A contour line is an outline. A vertical line, I don't know if we talked about that, but a vertical line goes straight up and down. A horizontal line goes side to side. Rhythm is the feeling of movement in art. And overlapping is when one object appears to be in front of another object. Today you're going to start planning. Once you're done with the lesson, you're going to start planning. I want you to look through some of Keith Haring's artwork. You can look them up online at home. or there's some examples within our module of Keith Haring artwork. And then I want you to be thinking about a social or world issue that's important to you. And write down some ideas in your visual journal. If you have any extra time, I want you to try sketching those symbols in the style of Keith Haring. So for example, if I was doing something like world hunger as my issue, then I might start creating some images of food, possibly, in the style of Keith Haring. And after you get a chance to look at some of Keith Haring's artwork, you'll kind of understand his style. It's more of an outline, contour line, outline style of art. Here are some possible social and world issues that you could use. World hunger, poverty, COVID, racial inequality, climate change, bullying, childhood obesity, gender inequality, divorce, natural disasters. There's many, many others that you could choose from. So if you don't like any of these, please go ahead and look at some other ones as well.